descendants now residing in Qatar, but we haven't got a lot of information about them. Now, according to the Qatari Constitution, all rights are guaranteed and there is no discrimination before the law between citizens and other nationals. Articles 18 and 19 guarantee the independence of the justice system and the safeguarding of all fundamental rights for all residents. Nevertheless, the committee has heard of certain cases of ill treatment and discrimination affecting non-citizens, including a certain Abdulrahman, who did not have access to fair justice. He was imprisoned and then deported. So could the state party delegation provide us with more information about that affair and others pertaining to access to justice for non-Qataris and the enforcement of fair justice system for minorities and non-citizens? I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Chair. Mr. Diaby, you asked a question about statistics, and in particular, you asked a question about ill treatment. We condemn any form of ill treatment that occurs in Qatar. Law enforcement agencies deal with all cases of ill treatment, regardless of the nationalities of the persons involved. You referred to cases where rights have been violated. You referred to one particular case which I've never heard of, Mr. Talman, I think you said. Could you please provide us with additional information about that case so that we can provide you with additional information and ask for information from law enforcement agencies? This may lead to us expressing condemnation of the occurrences. Mr. Abdel Sayman is a judge who represents the Supreme Judicial Council, and he is now going to answer the questions. Can I have the list?
Access to justice was raised to make it more open, but also issue of fair trial for non-citizens. We also mentioned a case which wasn't properly assisted. The person and the trial, the proceedings took place without the gentleman receiving proper assistance. But I can give you more details tomorrow, or I can give it to the special. This is to do with Mr. Tayeb BENABDERRAHMANE, Franco-Algerian citizen who worked at the National Human Rights Commission of Qatar. He was arrested in 2020 by the police. Seems that there was no warrant from the prosecutor. He was tried, imprisoned, and then deported. Since we have the opportunity, since you're here, it would be good to get the government's version. But finally, I mean, I could give more details tomorrow if you wish. Thank you.
Consulate. Therefore, they can approach the court to contact their respective consulate to recruit a specific interpreter. And I hope that you would give us details about the case that you just mentioned, because we have never heard about that case before.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد النور الذاتي والسر الساري سره في.
The speaker is reading the Fatiha.
ما من أحد في هذا العالم.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think that there is no one in this room who does not respect the state of Qatar. It is an Islamic and Arab state. It has opened up its borders to all workers, regardless of their nationality. It is a state which plays an important role despite being small in territorial size. So it plays an important role in resolving today's global problems. Personally speaking, I would like to express my satisfaction at seeing the role that Qatar plays on the world stage. I have a humanitarian question today. This issue concerns an Arab citizen, even though he carries a French passport. We asked the same question of the representative of the National Human Rights Commission. It is the case of Mr. Rahman. So we're joined here by a Muslim delegation, and this delegation is in a position to understand that hitherto I still bear the marks of having worked in the justice sector. So that is why I insist that you provide us with the necessary documents which will enable us to clarify what the situation of Mr. Rahman is. We'd like to know what the situation is. This person has submitted all the necessary documents to support his arguments, so it's now up to the delegation to provide us with the necessary information and documents which would be valid in this case. With regard to personal freedom, we believe that you should expedite the submission of the documents which we are requesting. Hence, I would like to take this opportunity to once again express my gratitude to the delegation of the State of Qatar. I have noted that there are a large number of women in your delegation, and so I would like to stress that this is important and revolutionary for Arab countries. May the peace of God be with you.
Unification, the right to health, and all other rights that are granted to that person and their family members. There was a query about Mr. Tayeb BENABDERRAHMANE. As a matter of fact, I don't have any specific information about Mr. Abdurrahman. Before the meeting, we had an internal discussion trying to find the relevant information on this question, but we don't have him. We have not received any information about that case. We all condemn any violation that might take place on the territory of Qatar. As we said, 1,500,000, 2.5 million persons are present on the territory of Qatar, while all their rights are protected according to the Qatari Constitution and Qatari law. I would like also to reaffirm that the State of Qatar has processed and tackled all communications made by the human rights treaty bodies and working groups. They have been tackled officially, and These communications have been duly responded to, providing all the necessary information, whether concerning the discrimination or enforced disappearance or whatsoever. Again, these reports, these communications have been tackled duly by the State of Qatar. Some of the claims have been also been corrected by the State of Qatar, providing the real facts that have taken place. Once again, I would like to underscore that all communication that the State of Qatar receives is tackled seriously, as has been the case in many cases in which communications were referred to us by working groups on enforced disappearances or racial discrimination or whatever other topics under the guise of human rights.
I'm quite convinced that the state of Qatar, as I've already said, is a country which plays a leading role on a number of fronts. Qatar is a country which is a jewel in the crown of Arab countries when it comes to human rights, when it comes to migration. Your country has opened its doors to those people who are seeking employment. Your country is a Muslim country, and we know what the pillars of the faith are. The Quran states that everyone is born equal, so we can say that equality is a pillar derived from the Quran. That is something which is applied in Qatar. So I don't think there's any room for us to talk about racial discrimination in Qatar. I have a question about refugees and asylum seekers. Your Arab country is a generous one. You open your doors to presidents in exile. I'm from Mauritania. Our former president was welcomed in Qatar. So Qatar enjoys trust from the international community, which allows Qatar to propose solutions, for example, to the question of Palestine. In my opinion, as my colleague Ms. Amir has said, Qatar deserves our gratitude. I thank you, Qatar. Having said that, I haven't been entirely satisfied by the answers that you have provided with regard to the situation of Mr. Abdel Fattah. He has been unfairly imprisoned and was convicted in court a conviction which was upheld in the Court of Cassation. He has been sentenced to death. Despite that, you as human rights representatives claim that you have no knowledge of this case. To be quite frank, to be quite honest, sir, I wish to convey that the victim has been awaiting a review of his case up until now. That review should examine all the evidence, and Qatar needs to clarify the details in that case, there is a legal case file on that individual's case. The Ministry of Justice in Qatar needs to provide us with information on this particular case. That information would enable us to review the case and potentially propose solutions to you. Thank you. And its details. What I will do is I will send updated information to the committee as soon as I receive it. With regard to Tayeb Abdel Fattah Rahman, as you said, the courts have considered this man's case and a sentence has been handed down in different instances. So his case is known and lawyers have reviewed his case. I think that his country's embassy is also aware of his fate. So this is not a case of enforced disappearance. As you have mentioned, there have been different stages of judicial proceedings, and we cannot interfere with the workings of the justice system in Qatar.
أريد أن أرفع التباسا.
Thank you very much, Chair. I would like to request some clarification. Apologies. What I would like to do is I would like to raise a misunderstanding. I've said some very fine words about your country, which is a beacon for the Arab world. These are my profound beliefs. It is not out of self-interest, nor any other interest. It is my personal conviction that Qatar is an exceptional state in the Muslim Arab world. That is plain for all to see, and that is my personal conviction, and it is not out of self-interest that I say that. But there is something else which we need to express here. Whenever a complaint is lodged by an individual or an NGO concerning egregious human rights violations, as human beings and members of this committee, we have a duty to not consider these allegations as an unquestionable truth, but to request information from the state initially. And I fully understand that the judicial system must be independent, but it is impossible that a diplomat or some other national representative is unaware of a judicial case because of the independence of the justice system. So we have raised the problem of an individual who has submitted a complaint to us and on which we do not have precise information. So I would like to know, what is your position? Even if the individual can request judicial review, he can, in addition, refer his case to our committee. So we then have the duty to ask Qatar to look for the case file and provide us with information as soon as possible, even if it's not immediately. There's something which I haven't really understood here as the judge that I am. How is it possible that an individual who has been sentenced to death and faces the firing squad can be in this situation? There are doubts in the case. They've been taken up by NGOs, and so the least we can do is to ask Qatar for information. This is a fundamental human right. So personally speaking, I will spare no effort in trying to obtain clarifications on this case. Thank you very much, sir.